Boom. Welcome back, everybody. My guest tonight is a two-time Pulitzer Prize winner who has written 23 books covering every president from Nixon to Biden. His latest one is called War. Please welcome back to The Late Show, Bob Woodward. Hey, Bob.
Sir.
It's always good to talk. You've always got a lot to say. We've gone through 3 of your books so far. I've had you on for Fear, Rage, and Peril. The new one is called War. It seems like this is an escalation. Will the next one just be called by Bob Woodward?
Thank you.
Why war?
Because it's a war. It's not just a political war, but it's the war in Ukraine, it's the war in the Middle East, and the administration, Biden, and the next president, that being maybe Vice President Harris or Donald Trump. And, what's going to be on their desk in these wars is monumental. It's going to define not just their presidency, but it's going to define the country and, to a certain extent, the international condition we live in.
Well, certainly, let's say in the last 10 years, the United States, the citizens of the United States have thought less and less about our international affairs, as far as I can tell. But it always remains a number one priority for the President of the United States, not only because there are so many problems for the president to think about in so many areas around the world where the United States have interests, but also because they have a great deal of latitude in what they do in foreign policy. They like foreign policy because they get to make the calls.
Yes, and the Constitution makes, the power of the Constitution gives a president. I've written about 10 presidents going back to Nixon, and what they can do, their flexibility. Let's start a war here. Let's stop a war here. Let's make so-and-so a member of the Supreme Court. Let's send so-and-so to the Justice Department to be the Attorney General, which, and one of the things I report in the book is that Biden regretted that he put Merrick Garland in as Attorney General and said to his aides, I made a mistake. I should not have done that.
Why? What's the rationale?
The concern Biden has is personal, that the Attorney General appointed a special counsel to investigate Hunter Biden, his son. And the issue of Hunter Biden is just ripping Joe Biden's heart out. And it is something he talks about with close friends. He worries about where is this going to go. He has said he would not pardon him. There are a couple of trials coming up. Quite frankly, I know enough about Biden. I don't believe that. I think he will pardon his son if he gets convicted.
Wow.
So what this book is about is the war, Ukraine, Middle East,
well, let's talk
and
about
the fight for the presidency.
Let's start with the Middle East, Bob. Let's start with the Middle East. You always ask in your writing, what are the bastards hiding? Okay. One of the things that you find out here is how Biden really feels about Netanyahu. So what is he hiding from the rest of us? What's the real feeling?
Well,
there?
he says to associates, he said some things I can't use on the air here.
I can. He said he's a bad guy, is what he says.
Exactly right.
He's quoted as saying a bad guy.
He's very angry at Netanyahu.
What makes him angriest?
What makes him angriest is that he can't control Netanyahu, and the war has it's escalated in the last month, and it is something that Biden can't control. And Netanyahu's going to do what he wants to do, not just for what he deems in Israel's interest, but the prime minister he's under indictment. He's hanging by his political fingers. And so he is conducting the war not just in the interests of Israel, but his own political interests.
To stay out of jail.
Stay out of jail, not, you know.
Can you imagine a politician doing anything they could to stay out of jail? Well, okay, if that's the case, if he thinks that Netanyahu may not be, say, an honest broker of what's best for Israel, or is not actually working toward a peaceful solution in this case, why does he support him so publicly?
Well, because there's an alliance goes way back between Israel and the United States. It's an important alliance. And Biden has decided, look, we're going to support Israel. Good reasons, good strategic reasons, but I'm not going to be pro-Netanyahu. And so it's one of these relationships that's very, very tense. I mean,
He did hug him. He did go over there and literally hug him, right?
Yes.
Okay. That seems
It
supportive.
was I don't know. Have you seen the picture? It was what we call a reluctant hug. You've
what
seen those. We've all done them. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Ever reluctantly.
But only once. You only do it once. So I don't want to hug that person again. Okay, so the world was horrified by the attacks of October 7th on Israel. And the world's heart breaks to see the humanitarian crisis that is increasing in Palestine with Israel's military action there. In Gaza, to what degree is the United States and the Biden administration supporting the people of Gaza?
Well, what they're doing is they're trying to help the Palestinians by lowering the level of violence. At one of these meetings this summer, that Vice President Harris, who may wind up being president soon, if that happens, Harris is meeting with Netanyahu next to the White House, and it's a very kind of, we support Israel, Netanyahu's being very friendly and so forth.
In this private meeting?
Yeah, in this private meeting. And then she goes out and says some very negative things about Netanyahu in Israel. And Netanyahu learns of this, and he's just furious. But he knows he's dealing with Vice President Harris, who may be the president very soon, and so he keeps his fury to himself.
We have to take a quick break. We're right back with more Bob Woodward, everybody. Stick around.